Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So on this most auspicious day, appearance of Day of the Lord Ramacandra, there's so many teachings in the Ramayana, but I think the main one is really to follow Dharma, and that life is sacrifice. We hear in the Ramayana, Lord Ramacandra goes through so many agonies, Dasharatha goes through so many troubles, Sita Devi goes through so many troubles, but always their main point is one, to do what is right. It's very difficult. It's difficult to always do what is right. We often tend to, the mind says you do this, and this is very pleasing, very comfortable, and we go in that direction. But to do what is right is all the time. It's very difficult. And that's really the main teaching of Ramayana, that we try to live according to Dharma. Do your duty as a brahmachari, do your duty as a grihastha, do your duty as a vanaprastha, do your duty as a sannyas. So first of all we know where we fit in there, in which one of the four we fit in. But it's all about doing duty. That's really what life's all about. Because it says, Janma karma chimidivyam evam yoviti tattvataha chaktvadiham punatyanma naitimam iti sordina. That one who knows me, my birth and activities in full, Janma karma chimidivyam evam yoviti tattvataha chaktvadiham punatyanma, he doesn't have to take birth again. So how do we get to know Krishna? One thing is, like days today, we hear about Krishna in this day. We hear about Lord Ramacandra. But really that doesn't make it at all. Because when we hear, we have to act. We have to act upon what we hear. And we have to be willing to do what the Lord desires of us, to our capacity. We all have different capacities and different abilities, different ways of going about our devotional life. But if that's not part of it, if Dharma is not part of it, if you're not trying to, okay, I'm in this ashram, what is my duty here? So what is the duty of the brahmacharis? Anyone knows?
Serve the spiritual master.
Serve the spiritual master, a good one. Yeah. And live austere, and study the scriptures. What is the duties of the grihastas?
Keep the house.
Keep a house, yeah, good. It's what grihasta mean, having a house, good. Yeah,
Raise Krishna conscious children.
Raise Krishna conscious children, yes.
Charity.
Giving charity, very important one for the grihastas. Giving in charity, very important one. And the vanaprasthas?
Austerity.
Austerity, right? Vana, mean actually living in the forest, vana. So it's like going to the forest, living there, performing austerity. And sannyas? Because we know it's
renunciation and preaching.
Renunciation and preaching, it's the most renounced of all the ashram. So it goes like more and more renounced, right? More and more renounced. The higher in the ashrams you get, more and more about renunciation. So again, we need to know, we need to find our little shelf, right? And find out where we're situated, right? And then maybe say, okay, I'll make this compromise and this compromise and this compromise, but I'll not make this one. So we have to find where we are at. For those of us who are not pure devotees, we know it's a struggle, and we know there's so many things we need to adjust according to get to the topmost result eventually. But we're on the path, we're on the way. We started the process, right? We are in the process. We're in the shower. Maybe we're not completely clean, right? But we are in the shower, so who can criticize? So in the 4th chapter, Srila Prabhupada speaks, and Bhagavad Gita speaks about the different kinds of incarnations, or more like why they come, why Krishna come to this planet. So we'll just read that shortly, and then we'll discuss a little about Lord Ramacandra. So I chose the verse from the 4th chapter, called Transcendental Knowledge, text 8. It's a famous verse. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartarya sambhavami yuge yuge. In order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. According to Bhagavad Gita, a sadhu, holy man, is a man in Krishna consciousness. A person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has the qualification of Krishna consciousness wholly and fully, he is to be understood to be a sadhu. And duskritam applies to one who does not care for Krishna consciousness. Such miscreants or duskritam are described as foolish and the lowest of mankind, even though they may be decorated with mundane education. Whereas another person who is 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness is accepted as a sadhu, even though such a person may be neither be learned nor well cultured. As far as the atheistics are concerned, it is not necessary for the Supreme Lord to appear as He is. To appear as He is, to destroy them, as He did with the demons Ravana and Kamsa. The Lord has many agents who are quite competent to vanquish the demons. But the Lord especially descends to appease His unalloyed devotees, who are always harassed by the demonic. The demon harasses the devotee even though the latter may happen to be his kin. Although Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu, he was nonetheless persecuted by his father. Although Devaki, the mother of Krishna, was the sister of Kamsa, she and her husband Vasudeva were persecuted only because Krishna was to be born of them. So the Lord appeared primarily to deliver Devaki rather than kill Kamsa, but both were performed simultaneously. Therefore it is said here that to deliver the devotee and vanquish the demon miscreants, the Lord appears in different incarnations. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj, the following verses summarize these principles of incarnations. Srishti hito ye murti papanche avatare, se isvara murti avatara namatare. Maya titha paravyoma savara avastana, visve avastari dhare avatara nama. The avatara or incarnation of Godhead descends from the kingdom of God for material manifestation. And the particular form of the personality of Godhead whose so descent is called an incarnation or avatara. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatara. There are various kinds of avatars, such as Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Lila avatars, Sakya Vesha avatars, Manvantara avatars, and Yuga avatars, all appearing on schedule all over the universe. But Lord Krishna is the prime evil Lord, the fountainhead of all avatars. Lord Sri Krishna descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of the pure devotees, who are very anxious to see Him in His original Vrindavan pastimes. Therefore, the prime purpose of the Krishna Avatara is to satisfy His unalloyed devotees. The Lord says that He incarnates Himself in every millennium. This indicates that He incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy names, and spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtan would be broadcast all over the world, from town to town and village to village. Lord Chaitanya, as the incarnation of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is described secretly but not directly in the confidential part of the revealed scriptures, such as the Upanishads, Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam, etc. The devotees of Lord Krishna are much attracted by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of the Lord does not kill the miscreants, but delivers them by the causeless mercy of the Lord. Paritranaya saranam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. In order to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I avent myself millennium after millennium. So Lord Krishna here in Prabhupada, he emphasizes many different incarnations and emphasizes Lord Krishna. It's really all the incarnations coming mainly for this purpose. And Lord Ramacandra, he came for these reasons. He came to deliver people from whom? Huh? Yeah, but he came to deliver people from whom? He came to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants. Okay, we can put it in another way. What kind of miscreants did he come to annihilate? Everybody should know this. Yes? Ravana!
And the demons who were affiliated with him.
Subahu and Marichi and all the demons.
Yes.
So the whole thing started actually with Ravana. He was practically terrorizing the whole universe. He was raping people, he was killing people, he was destroying cities. That was his hobby. So he would fly around in his flower airplane and he would just destroy whatever he saw. He was very, very evil. So as always, when the demigods are in trouble, because the demigods, their role is to maintain the universe, right? It is to see that the sun is shining, there's enough air, and everything should be balanced. So the demigods, that is their duty, that is their work. Right? They have to maintain everything. So when there's such a demon destroying everything, the demigods are very much bewildered. So they go to Brahma. And then Brahma, he goes to Krishna, Vishnu, and prays, please come and help us. So that's what happened. So Brahma, he prayed to Lord Krishna to appear. And then Lord Krishna, he answered that he says, I will come as Lord Ramacandra. So the whole thing started with King Dasharatha. He was the emperor of the planet and he had all kind of opulences, enormously wealthy, enormously rich. Everybody loves him like their own father. Everybody loved him because he was such a good king. There was no need, there was no scarcity because he was such a good king. Everybody loved him. He had 3 beautiful wives taking care of him, obeying him, his every command, doing everything they could to please him. But he has no son. And for a king, especially an emperor of the whole planet, to have no issue, no progeny, is a catastrophe. Because that's how will the world go on if there's no leader. And it has to be in that dynasty. So he was very much afraid and he was very much in anxiety because he did not have a son. So he was praying to the Lord, he was asking his advisors, the Brahmanas, what can you do to please help me get a son? So he was trying so many years but he couldn't get a son. So he was always in anxiety. And because he was in anxiety, because everybody loved him so much, everyone was in anxiety in the whole kingdom. So they arranged for a yajna. And that's what we just mentioned before. Yajna is really the purpose of life. If you do yajna, if you do things. Yajna, what does it mean really? Yajna is something we do voluntarily to please Krishna. That is yajna. It doesn't necessarily mean standing on your head or performing austerity. Yajna means just doing something that pleases Krishna. So they performed yajnas, they performed specific sacrifice, fire sacrifice. And to make a long story short, out of this fire sacrifice came a beautiful, beautiful person carrying a pot of some kind of nectar, like sweet rice, carrying this pot. And he came out and he gave it to Rishi Shringa, who was the priest there. And he said, you should divide this amongst the wives of Dasharatha. So Dasharatha had 3 wives, right? Kaushalya, Kaikeyi and Sumitra. So he said you should give 1 portion to Kaushalya, 1 portion to Kaikeyi and 2 portions to Sumitra. So Dasharatha became so happy, now we'll get offspring, now we'll get a child, now we'll get a son. And just after they drank this, all of them could feel the experience of having the Lord inside. And in due course of time, first Kaushalya gave birth to the oldest son. Anyone guesses who's that? Yeah, good, that's Ramacandra. And the next one gave, so that was Kausalya, gave birth to Lord Ramacandra, and Kaikeyi gave birth to...
Okay. Well, that was the Bharat.
Yes, and Sumitra gave birth to the last two.
Lakshmana.
Huh?
Satrugna.
Satrugna, yeah. So then he had four sons, and he was so happy. And everything was so nice, for many, many years. Everyone was completely satisfied in the kingdom, and Dasharatha, he loved his sons. And one day, the sage, Vishwamitra Muni. Vasishtha was actually the family priest of Dasharatha. He was his main Brahmana advisor. So one day Vishwamitra Muni came, and that was a great honor. This doesn't practically happen. These great sages, they stay in the mountains, or they stay very, very much hidden in the forest and doing their austerities. But once in a while, if they have a very, very important purpose, they go down and they see that it's arranged. So Vishwamitra came there, and Dasharatha went out of his palace, and he paid his obeisances at his lotus feet and took him into the palace and set him on his own throne and gave him all kind of opulent prasadam. And then he said, "What can I do for you?" And Vishwamitra Muni, he said, "I'm performing austerities and sacrifices in the mountains. And whenever we perform austerities, some Rakshasas, they come and they destroy the whole thing. They destroy it by throwing urine and stool over the sacrifices, and we had to clean the whole thing again and start over. And then when we start over, they come and they destroy everything. And they come and they kill all the sages. So I'd like to ask you to give me your son to go and kill these Rakshasas." When Dasharatha heard that, he couldn't believe his ears. "You want my son, 16-year-old son, he hasn't even finished his education. You want him to go and kill these Rakshasas? That cannot be." But at the same time, he could not deny, because it was such a great sage. So he could not deny him. And he said, "I'll go with you. I go with you. I go with you with all my armies. I'll take a whole Akshauhini of soldiers and lots of infantry, and I come with you, and I'll take care of it for you. But please do not send my son away. I cannot live without my son. I cannot live without Ramacandra." Vishwamitra Muni became furious and said, "You gave your word. You cannot go back on your word." And Dasharatha said, but I can. But who are these Rakshasas? And he says, it's but come on. Darichi and Subahu. Marichi and Subahu, sorry. Marichi and Subahu. Right? These are the demons. And they are the accomplices of Ravana. When Dasharatha heard that, he fell to the ground. He said, "Ravana, me and all my armies would be destroyed in a moment if we stood before Ravana and his associates. And you want my little boy going there, he'll be killed. My whole armies, I'll go with you, but please allow Ram to stay back." Vishwamitra Muni became even more furious, and he said, "You gave your word. If you go back on your word, your whole kingdom will be destroyed. All your forefathers will fall in disgrace. Everything will be destroyed." Vasishtha Muni, the family priest, was there, and he said to Dasharatha, "You have to do it. You gave your word. And by the way, your son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead."
By the way.
See, that could not be understood by Dasharatha. Dasharatha, there is no way he could see his little son as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we know, Mother Yasoda, she could not memorize. Her son, he carries his father's chapels on his head, right? And he cannot lift. I have to come and help him lift the heavy pots, and he steals butter and he steals yogurt. How can he be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That's what I could not understand. No, he cannot be. Then the priest said, "I know personally, from personal experience, and that's a long story we'll not get into, that Vishwamitra Muni, he can take care of all this by himself. There will be no danger of bringing Ram with him. He can easily protect him. He could easily destroy all these demons, so why doesn't he? One thing is, it's the duty, it's not the duty of the Brahmanas. Again, we're back to Dharma. That's not the duty of the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, they are never violent. They're always equipoised, never violent. So that's not the duty of the Brahmana, but it's definitely the duty of the Kshatriyas, right? So that was one reason. And the other reason is he is the main priest of all these sacrifices. If he becomes angry, the whole thing is destroyed. So he cannot show anger, so he cannot take care. But Lord Ramacandra can, or the little son Ram, he can. Eventually Dasarati sees no way out and says, okay, but at least let Lakshman go with him. So he calls for his sons, Lakshman and Ramacandra. Come, and he says, please serve Vishwamitra Muni as you will serve me. And they go out and they go in the forest. Dasarati practically leaves his body just in separation from his son. He just left. And in the forest, so many things happens. Vishwamitra Muni gives Ramacandra a very, very nice education, teaching him how to chant the Gayatri, what times and timings, and how to do it, how to do the pronunciation correctly. And it gives him so many astras, weapons. He also teaching him mantras. One point he says to Ramacandra, now you've pleased me very much, I will give you a very, very powerful mantra, two very powerful mantras, Bala and Subala. And by chanting these mantras, you will never become thirsty, you will never become hungry, you will never become weak, you will never become tired, you will become practically invincible. So he learned taught him these mantras. And at one point, the sages started moving. And Ramacandra said, why are you all leaving? Because we know that the demons will come soon. The Rakshasas will come. So we have to leave before they destroy everything here. And Ramacandra said, I will protect you. That's the duty of a Kshatriya, right? Protection. So I will protect you. And Subahu and Marichi, they came, and they were throwing all these weapons at them, and they were throwing stones, and they were throwing stool and urine, contaminating the whole place. And eventually Ramacandra and Lakshman, they killed Subahu and sent Marichi flying for a long, long distance, and he practically almost left his body. Anyone knows what really happened out there? What was the benediction? Because there's always, if like we said, there's always agony in this world. It's all about doing dharma, it's all about doing our duty, even though it's difficult. But there's always some benedictions. So the benedictions, what was it made Dasarati so very happy that he sent Lord Ram to the forest? The marriage of Sita. So the sages at one point, they said, we're all going to this great sacrifice where this famous bow of Lord Shiva that's been standing there for many years, and nobody been able to bend the bow. Nobody even has been able to lift the bow. And Janak, he said that whoever lifts this bow and string this bow, he will get his daughter in marriage. That daughter was Sita Devi. So the sages said, you should come with us. Vishwamitra Muni said, yes, we should all go. So they went there, and there was this sacrifice. So many, all the great warriors, kings came from all over the planet to win the hand of Sita, because she was so chaste, so beautiful, so very, having all good qualities. But no one, all the kings came there and they tried, but nobody could even lift the bow. Nobody could even lift it. And even Ravana came, and he could not lift it. And then it was Lord Ramachandra's turn. And then a 16-year-old boy, he came and he first asked the permission of Vishwamitra Muni, and then Vishwamitra Muni gave his benediction, and Lord Ramacandra easily lifted the bow of his head and put it on the ground and took the string and easily string the bow, and then he kept pulling, and he kept pulling, and he kept pulling, and at last the boat it broke with an enormous sound. Actually, it's said that the whole planet fell unconscious, with the exception of Ramacandra, Vishwamitra Muni, Sita Devi, and Janaka. So there, Ramacandra, yes.
What about Parashurama? Is that
Parashuram, he became extremely angry afterwards, and then Ramacandra, he revealed his form, supreme divinity, as Lord Vishnu, and then Parashuram said, okay, no problem. But it's true. After they leave, on the way back, Parashuram, he comes and he wants to kill Ramacandra. And then Dasharat comes and everything is so nice. Ramacandra goes back to the palace. Dasharat is so happy again, the whole kingdom is so happy again. And then what happens? Dasharat, he says, tomorrow I will coronate my son Ram as the Prince Regent. He will become the prince. I've been ruling this planet for so many years. I'm tired, I'm old now. I want to give it over to Lord Ram, and everybody loves Ram, so he should be to be king. And I wanted to do it tomorrow, because there was he saw some evil or inauspicious sign in astrology, in other way. So he saw there's something very inauspicious coming. So he said, we better make it fast. So when everybody heard, everyone became so happy. Now tomorrow, Lord Ramacandra, he'll be coronated as Prince Regent, and everyone was so happy. Except one person. The favorite maidservant of Kaikeyi. So Kaikeyi was the favorite queen of Dasharat, and she had a maidservant that was hunchbacked and didn't look very nice and didn't have a very good health. So when she heard that Ramacandra, the son of Kausalya, would become the king, she became very envious. And she said, I'm this hunchback lady and nobody respects me, but they respect me because I'm the favorite maidservant of Kaikeyi. And Kaikeyi is the favorite queen of Dasharat. So everybody respects me for that. If Kausalya's son, Ram, becomes the king, I will lose that. So she devised a plan, an evil plan, how to turn that around. So she went to Kaikeyi and she started telling her, don't you see, this is all a plot. If Bharat becomes, if Ram becomes king, Bharat will be, your son will be terrorized by Ram. And so many people will. So this cannot happen. You have to act. You have to act, he says to Kaikeyi. You have to act. And you were once giving some boons by Dasharat. You saved him. You saved him when Dasharat. Dasha means 10. Dasharat, so it was, Rat means cart. So cart in 10 directions, because he was fighting the demigods, fighting for the demigods. And he was fighting so well that they gave him this noun, Dasharat. Yes, carts in 10 directions because he was so fast. But once he was injured by the demigod, by the demons, and Kaikeyi, she came and she saved him, drove him away from the battlefield. So mantra, she said, you should take now because he gave you a boon there. She said, Dasharat had said, you've saved my life. Now I'll do anything you want. I'll do anything for you. Please ask him boons from me. And Kaikeyi said, no, I don't want anything. I have everything. I have you. Right? I have everything. You see that I have everything I need. So I don't need these boons. Dasharat was very persistent. Says, please ask some boons. I want to reward you for what you did. He said, maybe one day I will ask a boon for you. Or 3 boons. So Mantra said, now it's the time you should take these boons. Kaikeyi said, it's wonderful that Ram will be king. Kaikeyi loved Ram more than she loved her own self. But Mantra was very persistent, and the whole night she was sitting there convincing eventually Kaikeyi to do her bidding. So that is the nature of bad association. Often we don't see how it works, right? It goes in there, and it sits there, and then it starts working. And we start doing something that is against our own desire or Krishna's desire. So that is the nature of bad association. That's why Prabhupada again and again warns against bad association. So bad association, what is that? That is everything non-devotional association. If we are not with devotees, we are with bad association. And even we hear here that even people are very educated and very nicely behaved. Still, if they are not engaged in Krishna consciousness, they are not really, what is this, Yasti Bhaktiya? Bhagavati Kinchana. Savai Gunas Tatra Samasate Suraha. That all the good qualities of the demigods are naturally there in the devotee. And for one who is not a devotee, there's no good qualities. And even though they can have good qualities, but there's no good qualities because they do not have the main quality, they're not a devotee of the Lord. So then all their qualities become null and void. So eventually through the whole night, Kaikeyi was convinced, and she went to speak with Dasarath. So she did as women do well. She went to her sulking room and she was sitting there and just agonizing and being sorry, feeling sorry for herself. So she was sitting there crying all night. And Dasarath, he came there later and he said, "Where is my favorite queen? Where is Kaikeyi?" He wanted to be with her. And the servants of Kaikeyi said, "She's in the sulking room." And Dasarath said, "Why is she in a sulking room on a day like this? Everyone is celebrating, the whole kingdom is celebrating. Tomorrow Ram will be coronated as Prince Regent." So he went in there and she saw her lying on the floor, her sari and disheveled and hair loose and everything. And she said, "What is wrong, my dear wife? What is wrong?" And he said, "I will do anything. Has anyone hurt you? Has anyone defamed you? Has anyone heard anything to you? I'll do anything I can to make you happy again." And she turned to him and said, "You will do anything? I'll do anything. I always do anything to please you. You do anything I ask? I promise I'll do anything. I promise I give a vow on all the demigods. I vow on my son Lord Ramacandra, not Lord, but Ramacandra. I vow on all of them that I'll do whatever you desire." She said, "I want my 3 boons now. 2 boons. I want my 2 boons now. And my first boon is that you do not coronate Ram as Prince Regent, but you coronate my son, Bharat, as Prince Regent. And you banish Ram to the forest for 14 years. Dasarath said, "Why? How can you? Why? What has gone into you? Why? I'll coronate Bharat as king, but please do not send Ram to the forest." But she was determined. And eventually Ram was banished to the forest for 14 years, together with Lakshman and Sita. And they were living there for 14 years with all the sages, enjoying life. So the point is that whatever we do in life, there's always troubles, right? There's always things coming not our way, happening. And we just have to do our duty anyway. So Ramacandra wasn't even troubled going to the forest. If this is your duty, if this is your order to me, Dad, this is what I will do. I'll be happy to go to the forest. So we should also go to the forest. Eventually we should go to the forest. Eventually we should renounce the world, go to the forest and live in Krishna consciousness. So this is the whole purpose of the human form of life. So that's what we are preparing now. We are preparing the way, gradually, right? Until we are ready to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna, as he tells us, Sarva Dharma Prititya. You should give up all these dharmas. You should give up everything else and just surrender unto me. So this is the purpose of the human form of life. And we might still have some things holding us back. We are not Ramacandra, and we are not like Dasarath, we are not like Janaka. But we are following in the footsteps of these great personalities. So at one point we should be there where he also says, now it is time to completely surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dedicate my life for that one purpose. Living in the forest, living in Krishna consciousness. It's about Vanang going to the forest. So it doesn't necessarily mean going to the forest, but it means living disassociated from the material world. Being only in Krishna consciousness. Training our mind in such a way that when we are leaving this body, that then we can remember Krishna. And Krishna promises that he enters into our mind. To some houses, Krishna says that I enter into their mind, and with the torchlight of knowledge I light up everything for that kind of devotee. So teachings are there in Bhagavad Gita, teachings are there in the Ramayana, teachings are there in Bhagavatam, but they're all the same. Ultimately it's all the same, Sarvadharma Parijitya. So that's why that's the end of Bhagavad Gita, and that's the beginning of Bhagavatam. But it's really also the purpose of Bhagavatam. Give up everything else and simply Ikiha Kurunandana, just going fully for Krishna consciousness. So on days like this, nice days like this, appearance days of the Lord, we should try to meditate in that direction. See how we can eventually come to that point where that is our main and only focus. Do anything I can to please the Lord, no matter what, if it's troublesome or it's not what I like to do. And then have the faith that Krishna will actually take care. That it's Krishna's promise. For the devotee I take care. My Ananya Bhakti, Ananya's Chintayantamam. For my Ananya Bhakti, I take care of him. I carry what he lacks and I preserve what he has. And that's what we hear in these stories. This is what we hear in Ramayana. Krishna takes care. This is what we hear in the Bhagavatam. Krishna takes care. Prabhupada speaks here about Prahlad Maharaj. He has the son. He was the son of the terrible demon Hiranyakashipu, maybe the greatest demon in the universe ever been. So Prahlad Maharaj was his son. And Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to kill his son, but he couldn't. So if Krishna wants to protect us, no one can hurt us. If Krishna wants to hurt us, which he never wants, nobody can protect us. So I stop here. Any comments or questions?
Thank you for a very, very nice lecture. Inspiring Rama Katha. Appreciate it a lot. So you spoke about the end of life, we're going to the forest. And then you kind of clarified what that meant, because there's a Vedic conception and then there's a more modern conception. So modern times it's not actually going to the forest because it's not practical. Could you maybe elaborate a little more on that in terms of what Srila Prabhupada instructed and Bhaktivinoda Thakur instructed?
For renouncing in the end of life?
Yes.
It's mainly just, I think I pointed at that, it's mainly just becoming more Krishna conscious, giving up material attachment, becoming Ikiha Kurunandana with one pointed attention. Right now, I can see in my own life, I have so many so many branches. Right? That Ikiha Kurunandana, this one pointed attention, everything we do for Krishna. Very difficult. But that's really what it is. That's what old life is meant for. That's what human life is meant for. But it's, for most of us, it's a very gradual process. It's a very gradual process, means it's only there, it's rarely seen that people fully surrender when they're young. It's very rare. But it is seen when people get old, even though it's still rare, but it's seen there. And it's more easy there. And that's why we have the ashrams. All the ashrams really end up at sannyas at one point. Prabhupada says we should take sannyas inwardly. So not necessarily taking sannyas with a danda, but inwardly we should take sannyas. So that means we should inwardly, even whatever ashram we are in, whatever we are working or not working, doesn't really matter. But if we dedicate everything to the service of Lord Krishna, That's really sannyas. So that's what everybody should do. Men, women, everyone. Eventually we should come to that point. Otherwise, we get one more try. We come back and we try again, right? And then we take a new life and we go through that whole motions. They're all going through that troubles in the material world until we become renounced. Because it's the nature. We can see it. We can see it in our daily lives. See how much pain there is, how many troubles are there, and a little pleasure, right? Here and there. You can eat some nice food, or there's some little whatever, right? Satisfaction, but it's very, very shallow. So at that point, when we realize that, then it becomes more easy to having this one pointed attention. I want to do everything I can in this Krishna all the time. And we'll see if we do. It's so difficult to give up, right? So because we are holding, like, okay, if I can hold it by myself, but we are struggling. But if you just let go, like Draupadi, she was trying to hold back, and Duryodhana was trying to wrap up her sari, and she was holding. She could not fight this huge Kshatriya, powerful man. So eventually she just said, okay, just one chance, I'll surrender to Krishna. So she let go of her sari. Imagine this, right? For a woman, chaste woman. Let go of her sari and just put your hands and yelled out Govinda. And Krishna came and he supplied sari. So Krishna will also supply sari for us, if that's what we want, or dhoti, or whatever color. But Krishna will supply whatever we need. So if that faith is there, it becomes easier. But if we are doubting, and that's why all Shastra is so important, that we really study and understand Shastra. Because if you understand this principle thoroughly, then it becomes not easy but easier to go full in for Krishna. So it's just this realization that there's no happiness in the material world. You need to understand that there's nothing real. There's nothing real there. It's just chapala sukha, right? It's a little satisfaction, then it's gone. Chapala means flickering, it's coming and going. And then there's this nature of instruction described in the introduction, bhoga chaka. Enjoy a little, and then that becomes boring, and then we renounces it, and then this becomes boring, and then we try to enjoy again. And Prabhupada says, people work hard all week, and then they have to go on holidays on the weekend, go to the summer house, or go someplace else so they can relax. So that's this bhoga chaka, happiness. So we should really just dedicate our lives to Krishna. If we believe that, that's what it takes, right? It takes that we have that, otherwise why do it? If you have no trust, if you don't believe in the whole process, why do it? So then the trust and the belief in the process comes from hearing, comes from chanting, comes from doing it right, and just allowing Krishna a place in our existence, a place in our heart. Not allowing Krishna to take over, and not really being so self-dependent. Because we constantly depend on our own fallible soldiers. As Bhagavatam says, all these fallible soldiers, they are here today. Who are the fallible soldiers? That's your own strength. Deho deha bhajangni loke. Deho deha, how is it? Deho deha, the other one. Anyway. It says that all these valuable soldiers that we have, like the wife, children, money, fame, whatever, like physical strength, whatever we have, we think they can protect us. They cannot ultimately. They can give us a little protection now and there, seemingly. Okay, we have money, we get some shelter. Right? We have some strength, so we can protect ourselves, or we can protect our family. But how long? And can we ultimately protect anyone? Can we even protect ourselves? Can we protect ourselves? One little germ enters our system and we die, we become diseased and we die. So we cannot, but Krishna can for sure. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for inspiring lecture, Prabhu. You have the introduction with the Varnas and Dharma and all this. Can we say that function now? I mean, it seems like we make trouble for ourselves. I mean, Brahmachari have their own economy, Grahasta are allowed to have it, but they don't use it in the temple, or they use it for themselves. Vanaprastha also have all economy. They are not surrendered to what they can. Sannyas, I mean, not even speak about it. I mean, they have the biggest amount of money.
Yeah.
Can we say it works properly after the book this way?
What we can say is the system works.
Yes,
But if people are not following the system,
yeah, we make
and
trouble for ourselves.
that's the whole thing. This Kali Yuga is just degradation, right? Everything is degrading. And we know when Pariksit Maharaj, he gave Kali the benedictions, right? So they are still there. That, but it's also where Prabhupada mentioned in a purport, that's what we should avoid. People who want to progress spiritually and want to make any kind of progress, they should avoid these 4 vices. And they should also avoid too much wealth. Right? So that means, again, giving charity. But it's so difficult. But again, because we think, I need to protect myself. And we do it to some extent. We shouldn't be careless either. Right? But we should know that ultimately it's Krishna sending, so give back to Krishna and Krishna will send more. So if you can live by that principle, but that's very rare, definitely, as you're saying, it's very rare. And if we do not see the role models, if we have no role models in our movement of few, then how can we follow? Then it takes intelligence, and then it takes personal strength, and that's also very rare in Kali Yuga. So maybe we should endeavor to become role models. It's all start with us, really. It's so the tendency is there, I can see myself, like to point out the problem is out there, the problem is out there, the problem is out there, but we know really where the problem is. Like the Avanti Brahmana, he realized that all the people destroying me, trying to spitting at me and destroying whenever I bathe, they just destroy everything, so I have to go bathe again. And he says, they're not really my enemies. I have only one enemy, that's my mind. So if we can come to the same realization that it's really our mind is stopping us from doing what is right, following Dharma, really. So then gradually, step by step.
In my experience, when I hear around, many are afraid to surrender. What will come after if I surrender?
Yeah.
They come to the
Fear.
yes,
fear.
the fear come, and they cannot jump over this fear. Then they have to go back.
Yeah.
And look at it, and then they take again a little, but still. Yeah. And then maybe one day they jump and say, okay, now there is nothing else.
Yeah. But then what we can do is look at people like Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nothing. Going to a foreign country from India in that age, right? No money practically, a few Indian rupees. Nothing. And in a matter of very short time, a few years, extremely wealthy. Right? Krishna sent so many things. Krishna sent people, Krishna sent the temples, Krishna sent Lakshmi, Krishna sent everything Prabhupada needed. There was still struggle. See, that's the thing we might be aware, that it's not like because we surrender to Krishna that life becomes very easy and no, that's not necessarily how it works. It can be, but it can also be Krishna is still like giving us a little testing us and giving us a little
lectures.
Some lectures.
Life.
Definitely lectures in life.
It's actually a drama Krishna make.
Yeah.
And
Krishna,
we make the drama here in our material life, but that's quite another drama. This is a fear and all this, Well.
Krishna is doing all this material world just to educate us. Everything. All this trouble and everything there is just to educate us. Just to teach us this one rule of life. Right? Sarvadharma Pratyatya. This is what the whole thing is for. That's why in Bhagavad Gita ends there. Whole things, Krishna goes through the whole thing with Arjuna. You can do all these things. You can do yoga, you can do all these things. But this is really what you should do, Arjuna.
It's a kind of drama. I mean, we go into many dramas. Then we get married. That's a new drama, coming up. Well, there's also a test. Are we surrendered or not?
Yeah.
Then we go into maybe beginning Vanaprastha slowly. New drama coming. We cannot surrender because we are attached to our money and our all kind of things. And then come when sannyas come. Of course, few, as you say, we very few are going out and preach, nothing else. But mostly they sit and take nice prasad and get served and washing feet and all these kind of things. Huh?
So it's all the parties,
Sorry,
right? It's
I'm
all
also joking.
all
I know
designations.
Krishna is the biggest, but it comes from him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not easy to surrender. It's not easy to be strict. But if we are strict, it's easy to be Krishna conscious. That's a quote from ISKCON.
Many ways.
ISKCON Sannyasi.
Many ways to get
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
It's just, I was just reminded this fact that Lord Ramacandra, he went through the forest and saw they were walking on this rough path, and thorns pierced his lotus feet, and then Lakshmana Prabhu and Sita Devi, they wanted to remove these thorns, and he said, no, you cannot remove them, because whenever somebody takes shelter at my lotus feet, I will never remove them. So
even the thorns.
So it's like an encouragement. I thought, I'm sorry, I'm like coming with a comment instead of a question, but then can you comment on all of the walks of life that Ramacandra, he was so merciful to even the forest realm, so many different classes of human beings, but also the vanaras and the animals. They also got his protection or his association.
I never heard that with the thorns, so I don't think it's from our Ramayana, but there's so many. Ramayana is so big, so we just had the abridged version. Yeah, we see it again and again in throughout the life of Ramacandra, right? When all the monkeys, all the demigods disguised as monkeys, they were helping him. So he was seeing in a way that they stopped so they could get all the fruits, and he was seeing, who was it? Was it Vishwamitra? The architect of the demigods, I think he made arrange so they... Vishwakarma, yeah, so he made arrange for all kind of fruit trees, and so he would always take care of his devotees. And even that washerman, or who eventually said Ramacandra, he's henpecked, and Sita, she's not chaste, right, because he was with another man. So what did Ramacandra do? Even though it's completely unjust and wrong, Ramacandra, he banished his most beloved wife to the forest. So again, all this sacrifice, right? And this was just to please this one man who had even a wrong mentality. Again, just to follow Dharma. That's general for Krishna and Krishna's incarnations. That Krishna is loving his devotees so much that he will do practically anything for them. Bhishma, he was fighting against Arjuna and almost winning. Krishna, he broke his own promise practically to stop Bhishma from killing Arjuna. Otherwise he would have killed him. So again, Krishna shows it. He shows it with the pure devotees. Krishna, he protects them. But it's so difficult to have full faith in that principle. But he shows it again and again, right? In all the incarnations. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu protecting his devotees again and again. Yes?
Again, we can say Krishna made drama there, but it was not Sita. Sita was just an illusion. Ravana took Sita
exactly.
An illusion. It was not Sita.
No.
So there was again drama he made because Krishna likes drama.
Yeah.
He likes fighting, drama, all this kind of...
The whole spiritual world is one big drama.
With all his wife, he just make all kind of drama with the coward boy all the time.
Yes.
He just like it.
Yes.
We don't understand it, but because we are used to see drama as we only like when there's other in the drama. Then it's good. But we are in it, wow, that's so good.
Good point. Even Krishna goes through so much. Like when he's leaving Vrindavan, we hear so often how the gopis are agonizing, and how Mother Yasoda and Nandamraj, how they are practically leaving their bodies. But it's even worse for Krishna. Why? Because they have their own association there. Krishna is completely alone. He's with the people in Dwaraka or Mathura, but he's not with his most beloved devotees. They are together still, but Krishna is there all alone. So he's actually, it's his performing austerity there, really. And that's why also he sends Uddhava, and when Krishna is sitting writing these letters to the gopis and to his parents like this, his tears are just flowing from his eyes so much that all the ink on the paper is washed away. So eventually he has to ask Uddhava to write it down for him because he can't. And he can't go there, so he sends Uddhava. And then he comes there as the bumblebee, right? You know this famous story in Krishna book. He comes there and he watches, just, oh, I can be with, but I have to be disguised. So I can be with the gopis, I can be close to them for just a short while, and then I have to go back. So even Krishna, right, when he comes on this planet, he performs yajna, he performs sacrifice, he follows Dharma. And then also Krishna, sometimes he transgresses the Dharma, but he's doing this sacrifice just to please his devotees.
Yeah, of course, he wants to learn us to do the same.
Yeah.
This is the goal.
Yeah. And he leaves the devotees. One thing is to increase their love, that's one of them, right? But it's also, he knows if he's there, Kamsa will come.
Yeah.
Kamsa will come and he will continue and that will destroy the whole mood in Vrindavan. Send all these demons first, Putana and Sakatachura and all these, Dhenukasura and all these demons, right? But he knew also when Kamsa comes, it'll be different.
Yeah.
So that's why Krishna, he went to Mathura and there he killed Kamsa. Still he could not go back. Then he went to Dwaraka. Okay, thank you all very much. Yeah, very last.
Jeg har bare lyst til... No, never mind, sorry.
Nandavad Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki,
Jai.
Lord Ramacandra Bhagavan ki,
Jai.
Nande.
Hari.